Welcome to the Old Man of the Three with JJ Redick and Tommy Alter, brought to you by 342 Productions. This is episode 199. Derrick White. Always good catching up with Derrick. Tommy, for the Boston Celtics fans out there listening to this, I just want to acknowledge that last year when we had Derrick on, I brought up the fact that he was shooting 44% on threes. He subsequently went into a little bit of a shooting slump for a while. It evened out in the end. I got blamed for that. So coming into this interview, I was aware to not mention what he was shooting from three. And I should have said something to you.
Preemptive apology. I'm sorry. I don't know how the next 6 weeks are going to go, but I'm sorry right now.
I'm not going to say what Derrick said when we brought up the 3-point splits.
I just love how
I loved his response.
I love how aware he was of this.
He knows what's going on. Derrick White checks Celtics Twitter, apparently. He knows what's going on.
He's the nicest guy ever.
He's great. He's great. And he's playing great. It's
amazing. It's like good guys win with him. And I think we talked about, we get into, your love fest for him. And you've been probably the most high profile champion of his. But just his impact, you spelled it out about as well as you could last week, but just his impact with this team is unbelievable.
Yeah. Get to do a lot of stuff with Derrick. You always enjoy having players on a second time because they're more comfortable. And Derrick gave a great interview, had some really insightful stuff, some great stories. We'll get to Derrick in a second, but first, our DraftKings Sportsbook segment. I do want to talk about the Western Conference right now, which is just loaded. And a couple upstarts at the top of the conference as of today. The Minnesota Timberwolves with the number 1 seed, Oklahoma City with the 2nd seed. Oklahoma City, of course, one of 3 teams, that are top 5 in offensive and defensive efficiency, along with the Boston Celtics and the Philadelphia 76ers. I want to focus a little bit on where we are right now at essentially the 32 to 34 game mark of the season, almost to the halfway point. And I want to focus specifically on 3 teams who, as of today, are not top 8 seeds. And that is the Phoenix Suns, the Lakers, and the Golden State Warriors. And I was thinking about, coming into this show, teams that have disappointed. I think that's fair. And we are not a negative podcast. We are a positive podcast. We have given love to the Timberwolves. We've given love to OKC. We've done a number of segments on the Philadelphia 76ers. We talked about the Pacers, the Magic, all these teams that maybe have exceeded expectations. And the Phoenix Suns and the Lakers and the Warriors have underperformed relative to expectations.
For sure. I think any Warriors person in that organization, any fan would say if you told them in January 2024 they're sitting outside of the play-in game, they're not going to be thrilled at that.
The high expectations. Golden State, of course, got up to a great start. Phoenix making the trade for Bradley Beal, having this big 3. They, to some degree, I think, get what I would call a little bit of a pass, given that we haven't seen a huge sample size with the Suns, with their 3 guys healthy, but just some real inconsistency from them. A number of their minimum players that they use to fill out the roster haven't played great. Devin Booker, after a really hot start, has not been as efficient, especially scoring the basketball, playing in that point guard role. And then you have the Lakers, who won the in-season tournament, but frankly have just not been a good offensive team.
I was going to ask about
they've just not been a good offensive team.
Is there besides the shooting, is there something that is noticeable with this team this year because they had similar problems last year, and then it seems like the playoffs came around and everything was magically fixed? Is that obviously to get into the playoffs, but is there something this year that feels different about the makeup of this group offensively for them?
It's funny because I think sometimes when you have certain teams, the margin for error is small. And so when this team was put together last year, and we again I hesitate to use March and early April because of the way certain teams aren't necessarily playing well. Certain teams like Denver last year take their foot off the gas because they've secured a seed. So there's a lot of noise with data in March and April. But the Lakers were the second best defensive team. They went 16-7 after the trade. They got to the conference finals. So I think your expectations were that they were going to be right there in the mix. They don't have a huge margin for error offensively, specifically if they aren't shooting the ball well. They really do rely on LeBron and AD, and all of that is coming in the paint. And you see, like last night with the Heat, really just selling out and just overloading the court, strong side, all that stuff, and just grinding the Lakers offense to a halt. If LeBron James can't get out in transition, right, and we need 10 to 14 points that way. We need 40 to 45 points in the paint created by LeBron and AD, and then we've got to shoot somewhere near league average. And they've just been a bad shooting team all season.
The Warriors, with the Warriors in particular, we've spent a decent amount of time talking about them. What's the fix for this? It's a team that should not miss. You would think should not miss the playing game. What do you think? What do you think the next month looks like?
Well, we had Steve Kerr on Christmas Day. I thought it was interesting when we were asking about Brandon Podzimski, the rookie from Santa Clara, and his play recently heading into that game. And then, of course, he had a great Christmas Day game. Kerr was like, he's our guy. He's going to start going forward.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody saw Klay Thompson's comments.
Pretty interesting.
Really introspective, where he talked about this conversation he had with Steve Kerr, where Kerr was basically like, you need to enjoy the last chapter of your career. And right now, there's a lot of anger. There's a lot of negative energy happening all the time, and that affects the group. And I think sometimes, and this was my experience, again, I didn't have a 10-year run with the core group, and there has been some guys in and out, but for the most part, they've had a lot of guys outside of the big three there for a number of years. And I think sometimes what happens with the group is the energy changes for players, the energy changes for the group, and the energy you're bringing. And this is not a knock on Klay at all. You can point to Draymond Green and the Jordan Poole incident last year coming off the championship. You can point to all the personal stuff that has happened with Andrew Wiggins. This is not a little like an analytical debate here.
Yeah.
This is really just about the energy that people bring to a group. And I think the one guy, in that core group that has been very consistent, at least from the outside, and at least when you talk to people internally with the Warriors, is Steph. Not just the play. I'm talking about the energy, right? The attitude day to day, the joy of the game. And it hasn't been reciprocated by a lot of guys. And I think that just weighs on you when you're with the same group night to night. And I said this a few weeks ago, and I'm still willing to hold out that at some point this team will click. At some point when Draymond's back and hopefully he's playing at a high level, this team will click. We've seen enough, I think, from Jonathan Kuminga and from Brandon Podzimski that you're like, okay, there's a rotation there. Dario Saric on a minimum deal has been awesome for them relative to contract value. His performance has been great. There's enough there. Some of the stuff that's interesting to me, and I don't want to get too far into the Warriors here, but some of the stuff that's interesting to me is the late game stuff. The clutch games, they played in a ton of them. They played in 26 now, and they played in 33 games. They played in 26 clutch games. They're now crazy. 500 in those clutch games. And I think some of the win-loss, right, it can go either way. A couple plays come down to it. Some of it is just like a size thing for me. And Steph has made more clutch shots, over the last 10 years than anybody just off the top of my head.
Do we have a
I don't have the clutch shots on him, but he's been great in the fourth quarter this year. Like, some of it though is just size down the stretch, like bigger wings, offensive possessions. They don't have that on either side. And some of that is that to me.
Before we go, one other team I wanted to ask you about is the Houston Rockets.
Yeah.
17-15, ninth in net rating, 4th and D. I think there was with the free agent signings with Ime, there was a lot of excitement about where this team was possibly going to go heading into the year. But at this point now, do we have enough of a sample size to say this is a team that we may be talking about, competing in a first round playoff series, something like that? Or is there something besides just Sengun, who's obviously been incredible, that we can look at as like, okay, this team is a real,
I don't want to discredit what they've done. I don't want to discredit their team because I do think they have a really good identity.
Yeah.
And it starts defensively. Sengun has been awesome. I called him as one of the breakout players for the year. I'm glad that NBA fans that aren't Houston Rockets fans are this guy's becoming a household name. But I just think when you look at the top 11 in the Western Conference, all right, Golden State, let's say they're clicking. I would envision them having a chance to win a first-round series. The Lakers, I would envision them at their best. They have a chance to win a first-round series. Phoenix, at their best, has a chance to win a first-round series. Dallas with Luka and Kyrie, they're in a game.
Yeah,
they're in a game. They're in a series. Pelicans, when they're healthy, and their two guys and their star role players are playing their best, they have a chance at a series. De'Aaron Fox has been All NBA again. They have a chance at a series. The Clippers, rather, who I think have a real chance to be a Western Conference contender here. They're good. Denver, the defending champion. Then you have OKC and Minnesota. So, Houston's been really good, but of all those teams I named,
they're not. Yeah,
I would say in terms of playoff success, I'm probably placing them at 11th right now, and that's not a knock on them. I want to do this real quick before we get to Derrick White. This is interesting. So, Golden State Warriors, the Lakers, and the Phoenix Suns, they opened on Western Conference Championship odds as the second, third, and fourth highest odds after the Denver Nuggets to win the Western Conference. The Nuggets have remained largely unchanged throughout the year. The Warriors started at plus 650. They're now at plus 1,600. The Lakers at plus 750. They're now at plus 1,100. The Phoenix Suns, interesting enough, started at plus 450, had the second best odds, and they're largely unchanged. They're at plus 550 now. So the bettors and the sports books are still believing in the Phoenix Suns, but a lot of movement. The one team that has moved up is the LA Clippers. Went from plus 1,000 to plus 550. They're now tied with the Suns for the second best odds after the Denver Nuggets. So lots of movement in terms of the line for Western Conference champion. We talked about having 12 teams. The Utah Jazz, I'll mention them because they've played great as of late, won 7 of their last 10. They're now 16-19, had a crazy game last night against the Pistons. It's a gauntlet, man.
Even Memphis with John back.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of nights I know it's the NBA, but there's not a lot of nights you're walking into an arena being like, oh yeah, we got this tonight. 100%.
I totally agree. And, with the Knicks making that move for OG, I think their roster makes more sense now. They were a little guard heavy. I do think they'll miss quickly in terms of his scoring with the second unit and the ability to run offense through him. It's going to kind of change their rotation. We saw that last night in the game I called. Randall subbing out early so that he can have the run with the second unit to start the second and fourth quarter. But even the East, Miami's been great. Indy can win any game on night to night. Orlando, a clear identity on the defensive end. Of course, the top three: Boston, Milwaukee, Philly, Cleveland, who's had a number of injuries. The East is solid too. It's the league is. I mean, outside of the bad teams, the league has 24 teams now.
Not to spoil, and we should get to the interview. Not to spoil anything that Derrick said, but as you've said a million times on the show, and as he echoes, there's just a lot of good players.
There's a lot of talent.
There's a lot of good. But it's not like there's 4 good players and the rest of the team is just there. There's a lot of good players. So they're gonna be spread out.
One thing for anybody that listened to the Tim Legler interview over the holiday week, we had a segment that we were going to do, and we ran out of time. We went deep on a couple of the topics, and we ran out of time. Tim played on one of the worst teams in NBA history, a Dallas Mavericks team in 93-94, the year before they got Jason Kidd in the draft, that started the season 2-39. I was on an Orlando team that had multiple double-digit losing streaks my last year after Dwight got traded and Stan left. We're going to do a deep dive on what it's like being on bad teams on next week's Old Man of the Three Things. And I already know that Tim Legler has some great stories from that Dallas Mavericks year. DraftKings Sportsbook is giving new customers an exclusive offer just for NBA fans. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code JJ. New customers can get $150 instantly in bonus bets for betting $5 plus score NBA League Pass on us. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook with code JJ. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 plus, age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. League Pass reward issued as promo code to redeem subscription and must be claimed by January 15th, 2024. See DraftKings.com/promos for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources. This has been our DraftKings Sportsbook segment on the Western Conference. Let's get to our interview with Boston Celtics star / role player, Derrick White. Derrick, I just want to apologize to you. I'm going to tell you why. Because I know that deep down, you don't like extra attention. And I feel like between my top 100 rant, which I know they asked you about, and then my mistake of a tweet on Christmas Day saying that you were an all-star, I feel like I've brought too much attention your way. So I'm sorry.
It's all good. I appreciate all the love and support.
It's an official man crush, I would say. I think this definitely existed last year, but we've reached another level.
It gets more and more. You know, there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with admitting that you're a fan of a player. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm a fan. I loved it. Derrick, I wanted to ask you, I actually want to start with the game last night. We're recording this Wednesday morning, the night after you guys lost to the Thunder. Have been so impressed with them and their play recently, 8-1 in their last 9. They've beaten you guys, the Timberwolves, the number 1 seed in the West right now. They've beaten the Nuggets twice in that stretch. One of 3 teams to rank in the top 5 in offensive and defensive efficiency. You know, having played them, a crazy environment, crazy game, just your overall takeaway from the Thunder. You've been in deep playoff runs. How close is this team in terms of being just a legit contender?
I think they're the real deal. I mean, you just look at their starting 5. I mean, obviously with Shai at the top, and they just do a great job of moving around him, creating space, and then he just gets to his spots. Seems like whenever he wants to, and then around them they just got shooting and guys that can drive, make plays, and defensively they do a lot of things with active hands, and they create a lot of turnovers. So I mean, obviously they're a young team, but I think they got all the makings of a team that could be dangerous in the playoffs, and I think they just keep getting better and better. So it was a fun game. Obviously, a lot of things we got to learn about, but I think it was a fun environment.
What were your first thoughts on Chet?
Chet's nice. I mean, we just played the Spurs before, so it was kind of like just seeing all these young bigs just be able to do so many different things on the court. And I mean, he had a couple big shots on the stretch. It seems like he's not afraid of the moment, and I think he just continued to get more sure of himself, and it's good to see.
I wanted to ask you about just guarding in today's NBA, and you bring up the Thunder and their spacing and their drives and their ball movement. I think they're one of the most fascinating teams to watch because they, outside of probably Isaiah Joe, they don't necessarily have like movement shooting. And so, but they're number one in the league in 3-point percentage, not necessarily on the highest volume. They're not chucking 55 threes at games like you guys are. But they are one of the hardest teams to guard because of the spacing, the drive and kick. Chet has sort of unlocked their offense with his ability to stretch the floor. And there's a lot of discourse. You probably don't pay attention to this, but there's a lot of discourse right now around the NBA, and scoring is way up, and everybody claims there's these rules that favor offensive players, which I'm going to get into in a second. Your perspective, you're out there night to night guarding elite players. What's your sort of perspective on defense in today's NBA, and what makes it so hard to get stops?
I think just start with, everybody's just so talented. You got to guard.
Let's
people.
start there, Tommy.
Just start there.
Hold on.
Break this out.
No, hold on. I want to start there because everybody, Derrick, sorry to interrupt you. Everybody is like looking for these reasons. Oh, it's the refs. Oh, it's the rules. Or we could just say, these are motherfucking guys. Shai is a guy, right? Jayson Tatum is a guy. These guys are insanely talented. Okay, keep going. Let's start there.
Yeah, definitely start there. You got to guard most of the guys step two outside of 3-point line. And then there's the spacing nowadays with basically everybody on the floor that's able to shoot. It just adds more room for those guys to get downhill or do whatever they want. So the spacing, and then obviously they say the hand checks and stuff, but I feel like it's still more physical than people give credit. And so just trying to keep your body in front, be solid. Everybody's kind of so smart now too, is like they know different angles and how to get to their spots. And when we get to their spot, then the pump fake and the step throughs and different footwork. So it's just trying to be solid. They're great players. They're going to make shots. They're going to get their numbers. But you just got to try to be solid and make them work for it for 48 minutes.
The NBA season is in full swing, and when I can't get enough of the action on the court, I spice things up betting on DraftKings Sportsbook, an official partner of the NBA. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 instantly in bonus bets. I'll be looking at this Miami Heat at Phoenix Suns on Friday night. The Heat playing great basketball on this West Coast swing, and the Suns looking to get their season headed in the right direction. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app with code JJ. New customers can bet just $5 on the NBA and get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook with code JJ. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7877 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 plus age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See dkng.com/basketball for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources. How cognizant are you when you're guarding a great player of the foul baiting? Great example of that is last year in round one against the Atlanta Hawks. You're matched up against Trey a ton, and he's a guy who has a real knack for drawing fouls. How cognizant, night to night in these matchups, are you thinking, don't foul, don't foul, don't foul?
All the time. I feel like it's like the start of every film session is, obviously a great player, but gets to the line 9-10 times. So if you're able to cut that in half and just limit those attempts, one, they don't get a rhythm of just seeing the ball going from the free throw line. And then two, you just making them make tough twos or make them make tough shots. So you can keep them off the line and just be disciplined with your hands and staying down and whatever it might be. You gotta find a way to keep them off that line so they don't get that rhythm and get those easy points, which
turn like a 25-point game to a 35-point game. You bring up something that I think is really interesting. You used, I think, the phrase "players are so smart," and they just really have a knack for drawing fouls. And one of the things that I think gets overlooked in all of these Twitter montage videos is, Joel Embiid is really smart. Trae Young is really smart. I think historically speaking, offensive players that generate a lot of free throws are very intelligent about drawing fouls. That you bring up the angles. There's so many videos I see on Twitter. Joel Embiid left hand dribble, and he goes into his jump shot. And if you put your hand in the cookie jar, he's drawing a foul. He gets into your airspace and he draws a foul, and it's a foul. Like, it's not like the refs are favoring him. It's not like he makes that shot. Right now, he's shooting 52% on mid-range jump shots. So, there's not really an answer. One more rant. I'm just going to say this. Every single time, and Derrick, I want your perspective on this because you're doing it every night. Everybody says the rules favor the offensive players. Can you point to the rule? I want to know what the rule is because I can give you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rules that in the last few years have favored the defense. CP used to get an outlet pass and run in front of the big and fall down. Can't do that anymore. KD's rip through. Not a shooting foul anymore. Trae Young used to stop in front of the defender when he got them in jail in a pick and roll in drop coverage and jump backwards. Can't do that anymore. Not a defensive foul. They've cleaned up the leg kick rule when you contest shots. Almost always an offensive foul now. The shot fake. If you jump out of your airspace, it's not a defensive foul anymore. Dwayne Wade used to get 8 free throws a game doing that. So again, these rules are not favored. James Harden, downhill, you put your arm on him, he's going through your arm and trying to collect the ball. That's not a foul anymore. I just named 6 fucking rules that favor the defense. What rule favors the offense? I want to know. I want to know.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like couple of years ago, like it was hard to play defense because of all those different things that offense players could do. But now, like, you just really got to be disciplined. Anytime you put your hand in the cookie jar, like you said, like, these guys are gonna sweep their arms through and get the call. And so you just really got to be disciplined, get your hands out, guarding with your chest. I mean, obviously the great players, they know what they're doing and they're going to get the calls. And so you just got to be extra disciplined in those times and try to make them just finish over you consistently over a long period of time. I mean, I feel like the stars, like, they're going to make shots and everybody always sees that. But the more disciplined you can be of forcing them to just make those tough shots consistently over time and not just give them the free throws. That's really how you can slow them down in the long run.
Do you ever get discouraged when you do play good defense and the star player just has a night? I mean, like last night with Shai as an example. I know not all the buckets were on you. I'm not saying you specifically, but he was 5 for 7 against Jrue, who's one of the greatest defensive players in the NBA. I think Tatum was the only guy that really slowed him down. He was 1 for 5 against Tatum. Are you ever discouraged when a great offensive player like a Shai or like a Trae or like a Halliburton just has it going?
I mean, I feel like the ones that I can control, like, is when he got past me and made the layup. Like, those are the ones I'm like, I gotta be better than that. But I mean, if I play good defense, he hits a fadeaway jumper over me. I mean, I remember my first couple years, I was like, I used to get discouraged about it, like, get upset. And DeMar used to look at me and was like, these guys are good. Like, I don't know what to tell you. And so, like, ever since then, I'm just like, I mean, they're good. Like, they're going to make shots. It's the ones that I can't control, the layups or whatever it might be that really frustrate me more than playing great defense. They make a tough shot.
What have you learned about Jrue as a teammate versus an opponent in terms of just his approach defensively?
Drew's amazing. I mean, he's one of my favorite teammates. He'll just do whatever the team needs him to do. He'll just go out there and do it. I mean, we've had him guarding point guards, we've had him guarding centers. Like, just his strength and physicality is just second to none in the NBA. And just seeing how like guys react when Jrue Holiday is on them is pretty cool to see night in and night out. I mean, he's special on both ends of the floor, but defensively, it's kind of crazy how 1 through 5, like we put him on someone and we won't even blink.
Does it ever confuse you? Does Joe Mazzulla's defensive schemes ever confuse you? Like Jrue guarding Joel, and then he's calling 14, where you're switching 1 through 4, or 15, you're switching 1 through 5. Like even last night, KP started on Giddey. Like, how much are you guys talking through that in a film session, talking through that in walkthrough, and obviously with interchangeable lineups and just the calls and stuff? You guys don't match up by position most nights.
Yeah, it's definitely confusing. I feel like my first year, like after I got traded, I was just like, what is going on? Like, this is not how I've done it my whole career. But now that I've been here for a couple of years, like it's kind of just normal now that the center is not on the center. Like, and we just do different things like that. And so just being able to be flexible, I feel like that's a great thing about having KP now is like, he can do so many different things defensively that, I mean, he probably doesn't get enough credit for it. And so he's just learning and trying to figure it out, and we're trying to help him out. Like, it's just different that really nobody really does in the NBA except for us. And so each game he's on someone different. He's guarding the perimeter and still has to protect the paint for us. So it's a lot. It's kind of confusing, but it's kind of fun too.
You bring up KP, and we Tommy asked you about Jrue. For you personally, I'm going to ask you to talk about yourself for a second. I know you're uncomfortable with that. The off-season roster changes and bringing in KP first and then getting Jrue the week before training camp started. What have the roster changes done for you personally in terms of unlocking your game on both sides of the ball and potentially also just your comfort level now being a Celtic, where your first year you get traded at the deadline? We're going to talk about that in a second, just how hard that is. And then the second year, new coach, you guys make, change from Ime to Joe, and now just coming to this season, a new roster. But it's clear that the pairing with Jrue and then KP's versatility has really unlocked something for you.
Yeah. I mean, obviously when Smart got traded, it was like a shock. And then just like, there's going to be a lot more opportunity, and I'm going to have to step up with the ball in my hands compared to last year. And then when we brought Jrue along, everybody was like, I mean, we still need you to be the same aggressive and how we envisioned it before we got Jrue. So just having both of those guys just spacing the floor, and I feel like Drew's just been like the ultimate teammate. If I got to go on or something, like he's willing to just stay in the corner and just space the floor for us and make a play whenever he needs to. So just having a guy like that that's willing to do that, who's an all-star in this league, and just kind of gives me the trust to make a play. It's kind of unlocked my game a little bit. And I mean, obviously when you're playing with JT and JB, they're getting a lot of attention, and then KP's getting so much attention that it kind of makes the game easy for me, and I'm just trying to make the right play.
With your shooting, your three-point shooting in particular, you're up to 42%.
Oh, Tommy.
Just stealing the question.
No. Derek, never mind. I don't want to put it out there.
Okay.
I don't want to
He'll follow up with
Boston Celtics fans Twitter. Boston Celtics Twitter now. Tommy just made a mistake. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to Boston Celtics Twitter. I'm sorry.
I know. Explain this. What is it?
No.
It's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. Yes.
What? Get into it.
No. Last year when we had Derek on, he was shooting like 44% from three, and I brought it up, and we talked about his shooting.
My fault.
And then he had a little bit of a slump for a little bit, but he still shot great for the year.
Okay, I apologize. I apologize to the Twitter in advance. I want to just talk about this jump this year, though, because when you even look where you were 2 years ago at 31%, it's a significant leap. And so, how much of this is you? How much of this is the team? Where do you see in January 24 you as a shooter in general?
I'd probably just say my confidence right now is completely different from when I first joined the team, or even that whole season. like if I feel like I'm open and the team just believes in me to take and make those shots. And so I feel like starting with confidence, that's definitely a big difference. And then I've done a lot of work in the off season and just trying to be more consistent with my jump shot. And so just keeping my arc and staying in the shot more and just a bunch of little things like that I've worked on a lot and really focused on in the off season, which has allowed me to stay confident. If I feel like I got a good look, or even if it's a semi good look, like the team believes in me to knock it down, and it's been a lot of fun.
I love when two things converge, and we're converging two things right now, which is shooting threes and Boston Celtics Twitter. And
I forgot how mad they got.
There's it seems like every time you guys lose a game, which is not often, which I want to get to in a second, but it seems like every time you guys lose a game, there's a part of the Boston Celtics Twitter is like, oh, they shoot too many threes. Can you just kind of provide some insight and take us into the messaging that Joe has to the team? Missoula ball, right? Ball movement, a lot of assists, a lot of threes, but just the messaging that Joe has to the team about the type of shots that you guys want. And truthfully, whether or not the type of shots are sort of relegated to certain guys.
I mean, it's not like each game they're like, oh, you're going to get 15 shots. I think that's the cool part about the team is you never really know who it's going to be night in or night out. I mean, obviously JT and JB, they're going to get their touches and get their shots, but they're doing a great job of just attracting so much attention and kicking it out to us. And I feel like that's the majority of our threes. Obviously, there's the one-on-one threes and step-back threes that happen throughout the game, but I feel like the majority of our threes and our looks are good looks from good shooters. And so we just trust that if we continue to get those good looks and our shooters continue to get those looks, like we're going to win more than we're going to lose. Obviously, there's going to be games where you don't knock them down or you miss or timely makes or timely misses. And so it's just trying to get good looks each and every time, have that spacing. I think KP has unlocked a new thing in our offense where if they switch, like we could just throw it to him and he's basically unguardable. And so just continue to have that spacing and then the freedom to make a play at the rim. I think even JT, JB posting up more this year has allowed them to get different looks and different things. And so obviously when the threes don't go in, it looks bad, but I feel like we got a lot of different ways we can score now.
Derrick, I was joking when we started this about your All-Star case, and I firmly believe that you have a legitimate All-Star case. After that tweet, I presented some factual evidence of the impact on winning that you have. And I think when we talk about, All-Stars or All-NBA or any of these awards, like there should be, and there is, a lot of concentration on counting stats and specifically, points per game. Your impact, I think, goes beyond that. And I'm curious about just developing the mindset around being an impactful player and not necessarily that being just scoring the basketball every night. When did that happen? Did you have to slide some ego aside to sort of give up, the idea of being a one option or two option, but just sort of that development, whether it was in San Antonio or when you first got to Boston, about that two-way impact on winning?
I think it definitely started in San Antonio. I mean, that's kind of how I got into the rotation and into the lineup was on the defensive end, just trying to chase around the best players and make them work. And then eventually, as my offensive game just caught up to my defense. And I mean, every time I'm out there, I'm just trying to help us win. Like I'm not really trying to score 20. I mean, I don't even care if I get like 10 assists. Like I just want to help us win. And I know there's a bunch of little things that don't show up on the stat sheet that help us win games. And those are the things that I'm trying to do each and every night. And so, I mean, everybody was talking about it last year. It was like, is it okay if like you just stand in the corner? I'm like, I'll do whatever we need to do. I mean, I'm just thankful and I'm happy to be part of the Boston Celtics organization and a team that's competing for championships. Like, if I play in the fourth quarter, if I don't play, if I get the ball, I'm just going to be enjoy it. I'm going to do whatever I can to help us win. And as soon as I change my mindset a little bit to that and not like, oh, like I didn't do what I wanted to do. It's kind of made everything a lot better. And that's what's been a lot of fun, especially these last couple of years. Like, I'm not too worried game in, game out. Like, I used to have a bad game and it would affect me for 24, 48 hours. And now I'm just like, sorry, I'm going to bounce back next game and I'm just going to enjoy this game and do what I do. So just changing my mindset a little bit to that, it's really helped a lot.
I mean, some of that is your teammates, right? I think it's, not even just this year, but, going back to 2 years ago when you guys made the finals, playing with a guy like Jayson Tatum, playing with Jalen Brown, of course, this year adding Jrue and KP, Al, of course, Rob Williams, Malcolm last year, who got Sixth Man of the Year. I think there's a different mindset around being on a team where you don't feel like if you don't get 20, you're going to lose, right? So I think that's really interesting. You guys, before last night, were 15-1 with your starting lineup, 15-2 after the Thunder loss. You're 24-5 in the games that you play. Just the night-to-night approach and mindset on being on such a good team and just having so many options and the versatility that you guys have, like going into a game, does it get boring? Does it get boring?
I'm going to say it gets boring. I mean, everybody gives their best shot against us. Like, when they see Boston Celtics on the schedule, like they're getting up for those games. They're ready to go. And so we got to be ready to go just as much as they are. So I feel like everybody just getting up and bringing that level up here, like it's forcing us to do it every night. And that's just the type of culture that Joe has been talking about since day one and the mindset that we've had. So I want to say it gets boring, but it definitely takes the stress off. And like, I need to score 30 or I need to score 20 or whatever, or we got no chance. Like, it could be anybody, any given night. And I mean, we've had games where 5 people scored 20 points. Like, I don't really know how many teams could say they can do something like that. And it could be anybody 1 through 9, 1 through 10. And we just got so much depth and talent from top to bottom that especially the guys off the bench get overlooked, and they just make it easy for us.
I feel like the Detroit game was a good example of to your point. I have a question for both of you guys. JJ made reference to this in his case for your All-Star bid last week, but what do you think makes a good role player? Like, are there traits that all good role players you've played with have in common?
Ooh, great question, Tommy. I'm very curious to hear Derrick's thoughts on this.
I say, number one, you got to get over yourself. It's not about you. There's times where I won't touch the ball for 10 possessions in a row, and I just got to be ready to go for when I do get my opportunity. So it's not about you out there. Obviously, you got to defend. You got to run in transition. You got to be in the right spot. But just always staying ready, which is not easy. Everybody's like, oh, you're wide open, make a shot. You're like, I haven't touched the ball in 10 minutes. Like, this is crazy. But just stay ready, stay confident, and then be aggressive when it's your turn.
I think role player, the phrase, just it there's like a negative connotation with it. There really is, because I think you could make the argument that everybody is a role player, right? Some players' roles are to be the 1A or 1B. Some players' roles are to be the defensive stopper. Everybody has a role. I think in sort of the context of what Tommy's asking about, of course, the role player, the non-star, right? I think there's a lot of role players that are stars. I want to say that. There's a lot of role players that are stars. I think the thing that generally jumps out to me, and of course, anybody who's listening to this can obviously hear this in the way Derrick's talking, but a lot of great role players are just low maintenance. And that's I think where it starts. Derrick talked about getting over yourself. I think there's this balance that you have to have. You have to have some level, like all NBA players, of irrational confidence. You also have to have the balance of, I'm going to have a healthy ego about what I want to do on the basketball court and recognize what my team needs. We've heard Derrick talk about that night to night. What does my team need? And then I think there's a balance of knowing who you are, embracing who you are as a player, while also that desire for more, that desire to get better and work on your craft, like that, those things have to meld together. Does that make sense, Derrick? It's like, I know who I am as a player. That's great. I know what my team needs from me, but I also want to keep getting better. And I think the great role players, they don't get stuck in like one role. Derrick was a great role player.
Yeah.
I hate that word, but Derrick was a great role player when the Celtics made their finals run. Derrick was a great role player last year. Derrick was a great role player to start the season. But he's getting better. The game incrementally is getting better. And I think the great role players, that's what they do. They keep getting better at the small things. They notice, and you're like, oh, wait a minute, maybe this guy is like a star, right? Where I think the average role player is like, all right, this is my role. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go, verticality at the rim, and I'm going to catch lobs. And then you're like, 10 years later, you're like, oh, this guy's the same role, never got any better, right? The great role players, there's that balance of like, I know what the team needs, but I'm also a motherfucker. I also have that irrational confidence. I also want to get better. So I'm going to work on my craft, and incrementally within a game, I'm not going to do anything that deters from the team, but that work is going to show itself. And that's what great role players do.
Yeah, I like that. You still got to have that rational confidence. I mean, that's what I learned from Smart last year, or since I've been in the Celtics. Like anything he does, he just got the confidence, and like he'll succeed whether he means to or not. And so just learning that, and then like just always wanting to get a little bit better. So when the opportunity comes and the team needs you to make a play, like you're not nervous about it. You're not, I don't want to step on anybody's toes. Like, nah, like this is, you're in the NBA for a reason. Like you did some stuff in college where you were the guy, or stuff like that. So like whenever it's your turn to make a play and the team needs you to make a play, you just got to be ready to do it. So it's good, like knowing who you are, knowing what you do, but also like having that confidence is like, if the team needs me, I'm ready.
A great example of that was the Raptors shot the other night, right? 14 dribbles, behind the back, step back, over a contest. There's some irrational confidence. Big shot.
To the confidence point, you are fifth right now in clutch scoring, and you've been a great clutch scorer since you've gotten to Boston. Does your approach change at all in the last 3 minutes, and last 4 minutes, or is basically this is business as usual? It just happens to be the end of the game.
It definitely changes. I feel like at the end of the game, I'm really just focused on like we got to execute this play. We got to get the matchup we want. We got to get in the right spots. Whatever, each game is a little bit different. What teams have, what teams don't have, and just to be ready to go. So Joe's giving me a lot of confidence and put the ball in my hands on a lot of times at the end of games, and I'm just trying to make the right play, whether it's me scoring or just hitting KP at the nail, or giving JB the ball in space, or let JT do what JT does. And so each game's a little different, and I'm not out there at the end of the game like, oh, I got to score to help us win the game. I'm just trying to make the right play, and right now it's coming to me, and I'm open. I just got to knock down the shot.
Derrick, we touched on this a little bit when we had you on the show last season, but I feel like right now would be a nice time to revisit it. You got traded to a team that was on a really good run. You guys ended up going to the finals. When we had you on the show last time, it was a couple months into the last season. You've now got a full season under your belt. You've got 2 full training camps here. The time period and the adjustment of being traded in season and coming to a team for a playoff run, right? There was no sort of guarantee that you guys were going to be a conference finals or a finals team back in 2022, but clearly that trade was made for a playoff run. What is your sort of perspective on that time period now, the challenges and just the things we're talking about in terms of the confidence and comfort and putting your imprint on a team that you're joining mid-season, just the challenges of that?
Yeah, getting traded was amazing and hell all at once. I feel like on the court, I was a step behind. Like, am I supposed to be here offensively, defensively? Like, what does the team really want me to do? And so I feel like my game was just a roller coaster up and down. And then off the court, my wife was 7 months pregnant. So we're trying to figure out new doctors, where we're going to live in Boston. I remember moving into my house the day of game 1 of the playoffs. And so, like, I'm unboxing stuff, a whole playoff run, trying to put together a nursery, like so much off the court stuff that was going on while I'm still focusing on the court. And so, like, it was just so much all at once that I feel like it affected my play as like a roller coaster. And so, like, now that I've had a chance to, like, look back and think about it, like, I just feel like I've grown so much more mentally because of it. And just having to deal with what I had to deal with. And, like, I think some people expect to be traded, so they kind of prepare for it. And I had no idea. So it was just a big shock. And then life changes so fast. And on the court, off the court, it was all amazing things and just all was happening at once. And I think it was just making my day-to-day just a roller coaster.
You know that you could hire someone to build a nursery. Just saying.
You're a good dad.
Derrick, don't let him give you shit for this. He did this too when he played. He would do all this shit. It's like, you could pay for somebody to fix this. He wouldn't do it.
Dude, I just wanted to build a crib. I feel like that was like the dad
you're a
thing to
good
do
dad
with,
and a husband. I'm only kidding. You're a good man. You're a good man. I remember the day we did this renovation, took 2 years, and it was the first game back. We came back from All-Star break. First game back was a Saturday morning, 1 p.m. game against Portland. I was playing in Philadelphia. So night 1, we move into the apartment, right? And there was no crib. And my youngest, it was his first night sleeping in a bed. We had these, like, built-in bunk beds for the kids, right? And he's freaking out. And he's like, I'm not sleeping alone, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to be with Knox. Knox is, like, in a new bed. And anyways, long story short, we didn't have there was like a trundle bed, but the mattress hadn't come in yet. And so my wife's like, you got to go sleep with the kids. And I'm like, all right, I'll go sleep with the kids. And I went up there and I slept on the fucking hardwood with a pillow and a blanket. And they did not go to sleep the whole night. I slept like 2 hours. I got up at like 7 a.m., drove down to Philly, of course, then shot 1 for 10, It's like I had this double-digit streak, broke it that game. Still think about that. But you know what? I don't regret it. Because like Derrick, I wanted to be a good dad in the moment.
Yeah. I mean, after that happens, you're like, I probably could have just relaxed. But like at the moment, you're like, I gotta be there. I gotta do this. And honestly, I think having kids has changed, like, my perspective of basketball. As just be able to go home and just have them not care if I scored 30 points or 0 points, and just to have fun and play with them. Like, it's definitely changed my perspective. So I don't regret nothing.
We haven't had you on the show since the playoff run last year. Obviously it didn't end how you wanted, but do you just have, can you sort of offer a little perspective on the entire run, and then specifically on the Game 6 Miami play, just because, obviously the series didn't go your guys' way in the end, but it was still one of the most probably iconic plays of the last, however many years.
Yeah. I feel like looking back on the playoffs now, like, there's just so many games where we just didn't execute at the end, or we kind of just gave away. And so, like, we just played so many games, more games than we should have. just looking back on that, and then obviously the game 6 was crazy. The whole game, I feel like we were in control, and the next thing I know, we're down 1 point, and I was just like, someone's just got to make a play. I knew I was going to take it out and just trying to find someone. And we talked about it in training camp, was just crashing the boards at the end of the game. And so as soon as Smart shot it, like, that's just the first thing that came to my mind. And was just able to be in that right place. And I mean, as soon as I shot it, I felt like I got it off in time. And just that kind of like minute wait or whatever to see if it counts or not seemed like an hour, but it was obviously special. And I mean, to force a game 7, and I mean, we were pretty confident at that moment. And then obviously having game 7 disappointing. So it was a whirlwind of emotions. I didn't really know how to explain it, but just being in the right spot.
Were you surprised when you come out of the timeout and you're taking the ball out, you come out of the timeout and they give you the ball and no one was in front of you? Like they were doing the thing where they try to face guard the guy coming to the top. Were you surprised? And did that alter sort of your thought process in the moment?
Yeah, I think each team's a little bit different about, I mean, we had a kind of an end of game play last night. Chet was on the ball. And then obviously Miami went a different way. So, I mean, when that happened, obviously JT was our first look, and they kind of double teamed him and denied him. And then JB was my second look, and I think Bam did a good job on him. So Smart did a good job of flashing to the ball. And as soon as I passed to him, I just try to relocate, try to space. And then as soon as he shot it, just crash and find a way to get the ball. And it came right to me and just got to put it in. So each team's a little bit different, and that kind of just changes your read a little bit as an inbounder.
Before I let you go, I just wanted to ask you about being a young player for Gregg Popovich. You guys played the Spurs the other night. Objectively, they have been one of the worst teams in basketball, like the Thunder, very young. And Wemby, like any rookie, has sort of, had some highs and he's had some lows. And then across the board, whether it's Sohan or Vassell or Keldon Johnson, it seems like Pop has a certain way of coaching young guys. That he did that with Kawhi, where he sort of brought him along slowly. Looking back at that sort of time period in your life of getting drafted by the Spurs and sort of working your way into a starter, what do you remember about that in terms of how Pop coached you?
I mean, I'm always thankful for Pop. I mean, every time I see him, I just tell him I love him, and just I'm thankful. But I mean, for when I was a rookie, after my first preseason game, I thought I played pretty good. And then I seen this report. They're like, what's Derrick's role this year? And he said, get towels and water for the guys. I'm like, oh, well, that's how it's going to be this year. But he's just all about the development. Like, he's not going to just throw you into the fire if you're not ready. He's all about just making the right basketball play each and every time. And you just got to learn that over time. So, I mean, my instance, I was in Austin a lot my rookie year, but every time I came back into San Antonio, he was there talking to me about it and like was knowledgeable about what I was doing down there. So just having him care about me even when I wasn't with the team just showed me that he does care about my development. He does care about my future, and I just got to continue to work down there. So when it is my time to get called up to San Antonio, like, I'm ready to go. And I mean, he pushes you. He demands a lot from you, and I think that's what every young player wants.
Yeah. Wait, just to be clear, Pop gave the report that you were going to be a towel boy. Pop said that.
Yeah, essentially.
That's amazing. Outside of the Thunder, just because it's recency bias, are there young guys around the league you've particularly liked watching and playing against so far?
I mean, I feel like everybody's a young guy nowadays. The next wave of stars and everything is it's impressive. And obviously, Tyrese, what he's doing with that Pacers team and the numbers that he's putting up is crazy, is incredible. I mean, just that if you look around the league, like Ant and what he's doing in Minnesota, and just top to bottom, there's just so much young talent, and then there's still like those old heads, older guys that are still killing in the league, like Steph and Bron, and so just having those guys like come together with the young guys has been a lot of fun, and I feel like the league's in a great spot.
Derrick, we appreciate the time. Always good catching up, and we'll see you soon, man.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys.
Thanks, Derrick.